At the time of writing this, there are about 4 released episodes of Andor. At the time of me recording it, there are about 6 or 7 by the time you're hearing it. Maybe there's 8, maybe there's 9, maybe there's all 12 of them already done and it's over. That just shows you how long it takes me to make these. But, just from these first 6 episodes, Andor has given me the biggest thing I've been missing from the last few years of Star Wars. The biggest thing I've been missing is that for every minute on screen, every scene of conversation and dialogue interaction between characters from shows like Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, and more recently Obi-Wan, it's that I don't ever feel like I'm actually watching real people.
Yeah, well, that's just like, your opinion, man.
Of course, I know I'm watching Star Wars, and I'm not blind to that. I'm not blind to the fact that Star Wars is a sci-fi fantasy series, but I'm of the opinion that Star Wars should branch out, do all kinds of tones and genres, do a western, do a dark thriller, go for horror. We'll always still have our traditional Star Wars fare. There was Kenobi, and Mandalorian Season 3 is approaching. It doesn't mean we have to get rid of those things, it just means we can try out different things. But Andor is unmistakably adult. Something about it just feels more mature. And no, it's not the killing or the lack of Force Jedi powers that make it so. The standout to me is just in the interactions and the dialogue. It's literally just the way people talk to each other. That's all I want to mention here. Tony Gilroy is the showrunner and head writer on the show. He was the guy they brought in to help reshoot and finish up Rogue One. Rogue One is a fantastic movie. My favorite of the Disney era, actually. I love the grit. I love the realism that movie has, how it feels inspired by war films. The way people talk in that movie just feels real, and you never really question it. In Empire, for the most part, the talking feels authentic and natural. Honestly, the sequels do it good too. This whole being picky about the way people talk didn't really happen for me until Mandalorian started. From season 1, while I did love the show, something just kind of always seemed off to me. I love the show, but I just wanted them to move past the traditional Shakespearean-inspired dialect or whatever and get back to a normal way of speaking. So many conversation scenes in the show feel sort of one-dimensional or staged. I know Jon Favreau intentionally wrote it to be that way on purpose, and of course George Lucas has a certain reputation of writing dialogue in a certain way.
The thought of not being with you, I can't breathe.
Then in Book of Boba Fett, I found myself never really being able to connect with Boba Fett because he always talked like this. The only guy in that show who was giving off any real charisma or naturalism was this annoying man, Twi'lek guy. I don't even know his name.
Indeed, yes.
Obi-Wan did the same. I started noticing this trend, but then I thought, well, maybe that's just how Star Wars always was. Maybe I have a big bias for the films that came out when I was younger and when I was less susceptible to flaws in human interaction. But then Andor comes out. And man, I don't know. Can we just do more of Star Wars like this? I'm loving the interactions in the show. Tony Gilroy is writing dialogue like a normal drama would. He's writing dialogue the same way him or his brother wrote dialogue for Nightcrawler, the same way he wrote it for the Bourne films, or any of the other masterpieces that they've written. If you didn't know Andor was going to have good writing just from the name of the writers behind it, well, then now you know. The thing that's making the difference is that Gilroy isn't treating his characters like they are a part of Star Wars. He's writing them like he would to people on Earth. Your dad, your uncle, your neighbor, each of them with their own little personality quirks.
I'll do it. It's fragile, that piece. The rain gets into the glue.
Let's look at a couple of scenes that show this. The first one that's amazing is this scene where Andor goes to meet Bix at the repair shop.
How fast can you reach him?
What happened to you?
I fell.
On what? A jealous husband?
Why does this scene just feel so much more real just to watch compared to something like this?
Oh, Bantha did all. These are a lot harder to come by than some plain old Razor Crest. Razor Crest.
Obviously, it comes down to the writing on the page. Just the words that are being said are much more natural. But to examine what makes dialogue on a page good is a video on its own. That's a whole completely other complex art form. But the other thing I want to bring into the light is what the actors do and what this thing the actors do that's called business. Whenever you have a scene of characters talking to each other, it's a general guideline in acting and directing that you should give your actor something to do while they act. If they just stand or sit there while they say their lines, it can feel uncomfortable or unnatural because people don't really do this in real life. This concept of business doesn't only apply to movement though. What if you gave your actor other things to think about, multiple things to juggle at once, rambling thoughts and emotions just as a normal human being would? Sometimes you're talking with your buddy and then you stop for a second and you remember that you have a paper to finish and that maybe your time spent analyzing a Star Wars show isn't the best time spent. The actor playing Bix is chewing up this scene fantastically. She's trying to work, she doesn't want to talk to him. She's got better things to do. It's chaotic, it's natural, it's normal.
If I may,
Speak freely.
in difficult times, fear is a sure bet.
This isn't really normal. I don't connect with this as I do with the earlier scene. Or let's look at the introduction scene for the character of Cyril Karn. He's a police officer reporting for duty. A normal Star Wars scene might have just done what the plot needed to be said, but my man Tony throws in this little bit about his uniform.
Have you modified your uniform?
Perhaps slightly. Pockets piping and some light tailoring.
It's only a little thing, but it carries the scene to another level, adding so much personality. Or this first character introduction scene.
Everyone's dead. While you were sleeping, they came in, slit everybody's throat.
I can make a whole other video about how well this show introduces characters. What kind of Star Wars show opens with a dude eating cereal at a table? Like, what the hell am I even watching? I freaking love it. Every single time when characters interact, it does something more than simply give us what the plot wants us to know. Every line that they say has a hint of character in it, a hint of personality, even in just the delivery of the lines, just subtle things. There are all these really good British people who just feel so perfect in the world, like this dude here. I love this guy. Something about his persona, just the way he carries himself, feels real and connectable, not only in his speech, but in his eyes. Look at him. There's just so much story in his eyes only. He breaks in this one scene and he demands to know what the hell Andor is really doing here, demanding for his motivations. A normal show would have this long monologue with dramatic music playing in the background, and then Andor is just like, I just want some dough, bro. And the dude is like, okay, well, fair enough. And maybe my favorite scene in the show yet is the Mon Mothma intro, or just, this plot line in general. It's just such a great dynamic. The lead in, the small hints, and then the shift once they get into the back room. It's engaging writing, something that honestly feels out of place in a Disney Plus Star Wars show. It's something that you might find in an episode of something like Better Call Saul, but it's out of place in the best way possible. I love it. Please do more of this. I cannot wait for the rest of the show. Although, as I continued to be in awe of this show, I had this thought, and I guess I'll end this off with a question. Is the dialogue in Andor actually as good as I'm leading it out to be? Or is it just normal, typical drama dialogue, but in comparison to other Star Wars shows, it becomes jarringly good? I'd like to think it's genuinely good, especially since it's coming from the Gilroy Bros. But what the hell do I know?
Shut the fuck up, Donnie.